Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari
Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari
Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari
Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari
Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana
Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana
Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana
Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana
Yamuna Tira Vanachari
Yamuna Tira Vanachari
Yamuna Tira Vanachari
Yamuna Tira Vanachari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari
Gopi Janma Vallabha Girivardhari
Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare
Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Grantara Shri Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. So let's repeat the invocation. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Am I audible? So we are continuing with Nectar of Devotion, chapter 47 today, and we apologize that we didn't have class last week. So let's repeat the prayers to the six Goswamis. Nana Shastra Vicharanaika Nipuna Sadharma Samstapaka Lokanam Hitakarino Tribhuvane Manyo Sharanyagaro Radha Krishna Padara Vinna Bhajana Nande Namachaliko Vande Rupa Sanatana Raghuyugo Shri Jiva Gopalaka. I offer my respectful obeisances to the six Goswamis, namely Sri Sanatan Goswami, Sri Rupa Goswami, Sri Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, Sri Raghunath Das Goswami, Sri Jiva Goswami, Sri Gopal Bhatta Goswami, who are very expert in scrutinizingly studying all the revealed scriptures with the aim of establishing eternal religious principles for the benefit of all human beings. Thus, they are honored all over the three worlds, and they are worth taking shelter of because they are absorbed in the mood of the gopis and are engaged in the transcendental loving service of Sri Sri Radha and Krishna. So this chapter is entitled Compassion and Anger. So it brings us to the subject of rendering devotional service to Krishna that includes compassion and anger. Srila Prabhupada, to whom we are eternally indebted, explains that when the ecstasy of devotional service produces some kind of lamentation in connection with Krishna, this is called devotional service in compassion. And he further goes on to say that when lamentation or the soka rati is nourished within the heart of a devotee by appropriate vibhavas, etc., it transforms into tragic compassion in devotional service, karuna rasa. So, like we have said many, many times before, Krishna is very expert as Rasaraj in churning different emotions in the hearts of the various devotees as he so desires and as per the relationship or the rasa that the devotee has with him. Now, this vibhava, how you say vibhava? Vibhava, Vishaya Alambana. So there are three objects of this Karuna Rasa or devotional service in compassion. These three objects mean that the compassion can be aimed toward any one of them. So compassion can be directed towards Krishna. Compassion can be directed towards his dear associates. Compassion can be directed towards the relative of Krishna's associates. And the Ashraya Alambana consists of three different categories. So one is those who witness Krishna in a tragic situation, those who witness Krishna's dear associates in a tragic situation, and those who witness the relatives of Krishna's dear associates in tragic situations. So on the left hand side, we have the objects of karuna or compassion, and on the other side, we have the personalities who feel these particular bhavas. And Srila Rupa Goswami and Srila Prabhupada will now give us different examples, will also be giving us different pastimes of how these things happen and the different times, different incidences when this did occur. So the Udipan, the impetus. The impetuses for this devotional service are Krishna's transcendental quality, form, and activities. So one can feel compassionate towards Krishna uh, because he may exhibit a certain quality, maybe of fear or helplessness, like when he was tied in the Damodar Leela. Sometimes by his form, like when the cows saw Krishna's soft lotus feet touching the rocky surfaces of the Vrindavan area, they felt very compassionate, and that impelled them to go and smash up all of the rocky surfaces of Vrindavan and make it into the soft powder-like sand to cushion the soft lotus feet of Krishna. And sometimes Krishna's activities, like for example, when Krishna was being carried up by Trinavata way up into the atmosphere, the Vrajvasis that saw Krishna in such a situation were feeling highly devastated and sorry for Krishna that he was trapped in the coils of such a vicious asura. So, how can these wonderful aspects of Krishna stimulate tragic lamentation? In the case of Mother Yasoda, Srila Rupa Goswami gives the example of Mother Yasoda. If Yasoda Devi sees Krishna in an extremely dangerous situation, her memory will suddenly flood with memories of his lovable qualities, form, and activities. This increases her affection for him, which increases her lamentation over the calamitous tragedy now befalling the object of her love. So we see thus that Krishna's form, qualities, and pastimes can be impetuses or udipans for invoking compassion or karuna rasa in the associates of Krishna or the devotees of Krishna. Then the Anubhav, that in this ecstasy of devotional service, there are sometimes symptoms like regret, heavy breathing, crying, falling on the ground, and beating upon one's chest. So a devotee may sometimes feel helpless in their separation from Krishna or from witnessing Krishna in a dangerous situation, and in helplessness that is propelled by this type of bhava, one may exhibit these particular symptoms. In Vyabhichari bhav, sometimes symptoms like laziness, frustration, deformation, humility, anxiety, moroseness, eagerness, restlessness, madness, death, forgetfulness, disease, and illusion are also visible. Staibhav, so in Sokarati or bereavement or lamentation, is the Staibhav of Karuna Bhakti Rasa. When in the heart of the devotee there's an expectation of some mishap to Krishna, it is called devotional service in bereavement. Such bereavement is another symptom of this devotional service in compassion. So sometimes the cowherd boys may, like when Krishna was tied last month to the wooden grinding mortar, they were very concerned that he was tied. Mother Yasoda's endeavor to tie him up began early in the morning on Diwali day, and the whole day, from the time Krishna's drinking of milk was interrupted by Mother Yasoda leaving him down and not completing his feeding in that early hours of the morning after a long night of resting. Krishna was Mother Yasoda had been attempting to bind Krishna the entire day until the afternoon, and the cowherd boys were so worried. Their compassion towards Krishna was so deeply invoked that they approached him and they asked him, Krishna, aren't you hungry? We should make some plan for you to be fed. The whole day you went without meals. And we know that Mother Yasoda, from the teachings of our acharyas, that Mother Yasoda takes this service of feeding Krishna so seriously that every 3 hours she feeds Krishna. So now this compassion in different instances come from different people in different rasas, not just with the cowherd boys. So now we are given some examples of the Karuna rasa. As mentioned earlier, there are three objects of Karuna Ras: Krishna, his dear associates, the relatives of Krishna's associates, and now Srila Rupa Goswami illustrates each one of these. Krishna as the object of compassion. One can experience Karuna Rasa or compassion as a result of Krishna being put in a tragic calamity. The Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 16th chapter, 10th verse shows Krishna wrapped in the coils of the Kaliya serpent. His cowherd friends who witnessed the Lord's apparent tragedy are the reservoirs, ashraya alambana, of compassionate lamentation, Karuna Rasa. That Krishna is now in these sort of insurmountable coils of the Kaliya serpent, and they feel like, oh, this is not, they can't contain it, and then they faint. Srila Rupa Goswami cites another example. When Krishna entered the Yamuna river, which had become very poisonous from the presence of Kaliya, Mother Yasoda feared all kinds of mishaps. She was breathing hotly. Tears from her eyes were soaking her clothes. She was almost collapsing. Krishna is the object of compassion, Vishaya Alambana, and Mother Yasoda is the reservoir of that compassion. So when Mother Yasoda sees this, her bodily symptoms of perspiration, falling on the ground, beating upon one's chest, etc., become very prominent because she feels helpless due to her compassion for Krishna, who has now landed himself in a situation of tragedy. Then Krishna's associates as objects of compassion. One can also experience Karuna Rasa as a result of Krishna's dear devotees being put in a tragic calamity. For example, when Sankasura demon was attacking Krishna's queens, one after another, Lord Baladev became more and more bluish. Here the Vishaya Alambana is Krishna's queens and the Ashraya Alambana is Lord Baladev. So Lord Baladev, when he saw the queens of Dwarika being attacked by this demon, he immediately felt that he should do something about it. So compassion became invoked in him. And there are so many different times. Like, for example, we see now on social media, so many, I think in this year, there have been the most number of requests for prayers for devotees of Krishna that have all landed in tragic situations, and thereby compassion becomes invoked within us when we hear about their tragic situations, and then there's requests for prayers, etc. So the relatives of Krishna's associates as objects of compassion. One can also experience Karuna Rasa as a result of the relatives of Krishna's dear devotees being put in a tragic calamity. The reference from Hamsadutta describes Krishna's footprints. When Lord Brahma sees them, he bows down. Now, this is, Srila Rupa Goswami explains, this incident happens after Lord Brahma has stolen the cows and the cowherd boys, and he has realized his mistake and he has now returned them. So he seeks forgiveness from Krishna. And when he sees the footprints of Krishna, he then bows down. And when Narad sees them, he becomes very ecstatic. Narad then becomes overwhelmed with compassion for the liberated sages who have achieved impersonal liberation and are thus bereft of the opportunity to see the wonderful footprints of the Supreme Lord. So Narad Muni, he is a seer of truth, and he understands the absolute truth in its full composition. So even though these sages, these great munis, have endeavored for long periods of time to gain impersonal liberation, and they finally attain it, when Narad sees their condition, he feels very compassionate that shame, their position now is that they're immersed in the Brahman effulgence and they are deprived of having any personal association with the form of Krishna, Bhagavan. So Narad is a Muni, and the liberated sages, they're also in the family of Munis. Thus, the liberated sages are relatives of Krishna's associate Narad. The Munis are Vishaya Alambana, and Narad is Ashraya Alambana. So, because he's also a Muni, they are also Munis, they're actually his relatives, and he feels compassion towards them. Srila Rupa Goswami will give us another example just now of the Pandavas. Thank you. So the compassion towards a relative is more evident in the next example. There's an instant when Sahadev, the younger brother of Nakul, became greatly gladdened at seeing the effulgent glowing of Krishna's footprints. It's explained in many parts of the scripture how Krishna's toenails are so effulgent that they defeat many rays of the moon and the sun. So now here we're hearing that Krishna's footprints are very effulgent, and when Sahadev sees this, he began to cry and call out, Mother Madri, where are you now? Father Pandu, where are you now? I'm very sorry. I'm very sorry that you are not here to see these footprints of Krishna. Sadev's mother and father are objects of his compassion because they are deprived of seeing Krishna's footprints. His mother and father are Vishaya Alambana. He is Ashraya Alambana. It's like sometimes when you're in a kirtan or you're experiencing the happiness within the realm of devotional service, out of compassion, you may think, oh, I wish such and such devotee could have been here, such and such friend of mine could have been here to relish this. This is prevalent in deeper degrees in Krishna's close associates and those that are in this particular bhava. Now, the advanced nature of this karuna rasa or compassion. In devotional service without strong attachment to the Lord, there may sometimes be smiling and other symptoms, but never the stress or lamentation that are symptoms of devotional service in compassion. Laughter, etc., can sometimes arise even in a devotee who has not yet developed his rati. However, lamentation and compassion for Krishna can never arise without rati. So, in the advanced stages, this aspect of lamenting for Krishna's condition when he is trapped in some tragedy, and the compassion for Krishna, this can only become solidified in one's consciousness when there is rati. So, love covers Krishna's supremacy. So you may think that when you hear that Krishna is in some tragedy, and we sitting here in the material world will say, oh, but he's the Supreme Personality of God. He picked up Govardhan Hill, he swallowed the forest fires. So what, we know that the Kaliya serpent, when Krishna steps on the hoods of the Kaliya serpent, there's no great cause for lamentation because we know the superpowers of our Lord Krishna. However, love covers Krishna's supremacy. Since Krishna is the Supreme Personality of God, there can be no real threat to his welfare. Yet unless one perceives a threat to Krishna's welfare, there is no possibility of Karuna Ras. Therefore, the Lord's supremacy and omnipotence must be covered. In Karuna Rasa, the devotee's intoxicating love covers his awareness of the Lord's supremacy. What comes to mind here is the story of an old lady who witnessed Lord Jagannath in Puri receiving so many rich preparations, and then she decided to make a very bitter preparation to facilitate Krishna's uh, digestion of all these rich foodstuffs that he was being offered in Jagannath Puri. So she was in the mood that Krishna is her son. So when she took this preparation wrapped up in a leaf bowl to offer it to Lord Jagannath, she was, so convinced that this is what the Lord needs here and now, and she must deliver it because he needs it now. He must have it. If he doesn't have it, it's not good for him. So this was due to her love. And what happened? The guard stopped her and said, where are you going? You know anybody inside? Said, yeah, my son is inside. Said, which one is your son? Said, he's darkish in complexion with the big eyes. So the guards chased her away because they realized that she was talking about Lord Jagannath and she was calling the Lord of the universe, her son. So they chased her away. She said, no, I'm taking medicine for him. He said, no, he's not sick. He doesn't get sick. And they chased her away. And Krishna arranged, Lord Jagannath arranged that he appeared in the dream of the king and informed him that such and such devotee of mine has a preparation that I'm waiting to actually take. And can you arrange for her to come and give me that preparation? And then the king or head pujari made different arrangements for this lady to come and deliver her medicine to the Lord. And from then it was a regular, a daily service that she was rendering, that she was doing this for the Lord. So there are many examples like this. Like the Radharaman deity in Vrindavan. So sometimes when it's Sri Krishna Janmastami Day, then Padmanabh Goswami, who used to be the chief caretaker of Gopalbhatta Goswami's deity, one time we were taking prasad in his house and he was telling us the story of how on Janmastami Day they offer many outfits to the Lord, to Sri Radharaman. And this one lady, she sat, not a very rich lady, she sat with some simple fabric in front of Radharaman. And just by looking at him, she was putting together an outfit stitched by her own two hands and crying that, oh my Lord, on Janmastami Day, so many rich people would be bringing so many opulent offerings of cloth for you. I am so low, I'm so fallen, and my offering is so inferior. But I'm so dependent on your mercy that if you so desire, you will make an arrangement for my offering to be accepted by you. And lo and behold, that the night before Janamastami, when all the outfits that were made for the different artis were being brought to the Lord, nothing fitted perfectly. And when this lady's simple offering of an outfit was the last option, and then the pujari tested it on for fitting on Radharaman, lo and behold, it was the only one that fitted exactly, even though she had no measurements to cut the outfit out from. So sometimes this intoxicating love of the devotee covers the awareness of Krishna's supremacy, and the devotee sees the Lord dependent on his or her service. And Krishna relishes this. Of course, it's not to be imitated, but Srila Prabhupada explains the apprehension of some mishap to Krishna or to his beloved queens is exhibited by Baladev and Yudhishthir has been explained above. This apprehension is due not exactly to their ignorance of the inconceivable potencies of Krishna, but to their intense love for him. So Lord Balaram, he knows Krishna so well. Yudhishthir knows Krishna so well. But Krishna's supremacy becomes covered every now and then when Krishna wishes to relish this type of love from them. And thereby they see Krishna in that particular light. In Krishna consciousness or in devotional service, even tragedy is blissful. This kind of apprehension of some mishap to Krishna, first of all, becomes manifested as an object of lamentation, but gradually it develops into such compassionate, loving ecstasy that it turns to another channel and gives transcendental pleasure. We must not equate Karuna Ras with ordinary material lamentation. Material emotions can bring only misery, since they focus on the temporary platform. When our emotions focus on Krishna, they can result only in bliss. Thus, even tragedy is blissful in Krishna consciousness. So, this may seem to be a subject of great contention uh, because how can some suffering bring bliss in Krishna consciousness? So there's a conversation between Srila Prabhupada and Dr. Patel on Juhu while walking on the Juhu beach. And this question is asked to Prabhupada, and Prabhupada explains the example of Bhishma Dev, that when Bhishma Dev was receiving the arrows of Arjuna in the presence of Krishna, he was actually feeling great bliss. So although his situation was tragic, he was then later on lying on an entire bed of arrows with blood oozing out of his body, um, a situation that obviously was of great physical discomfort and pain. He was feeling so much of bliss because he had the darshan of Krishna in front of him. Similarly, when Bhishma Dev's arrows touched the body of Krishna, Krishna actually accepted it as an offering of rose petals. Then we see the example of tragedy of Haridas Thakur, that when he was being beaten in the marketplace, so violently, Haridas Thakur was completely off what Prabhupada mentions here as the temporary platform, and he was absorbed in the eternal platform of total Krishna immersion of consciousness, and thereby he did not feel the suffering. There's a common story that I heard one of our preachers from India say, that's quite commonly known in India, not so much to us in the West. It's a story of Mother Teresa. So one day, Mother Teresa went to a very rich man for a donation for one of her orphanages, and she was quite desperate, and she knew that this was a rich man. But when he opened the door and he saw her, he became very disgusted that she had come begging to him, and he spat at her. So Mother Teresa, she caught the spit. She picked, the spit that landed on her body. She caught it in her hand, and then she looked at him and she said, "Thank you very much. This is for me. But what will you give to my orphans?" The man was so moved that she was taking on the position of being abused by people like him. She was simply undergoing that, accepting it without objection, but focused on the welfare of others, the compassion of others. So this quality of karuna is a quality that when a devotee exhibits it, the devotee actually attracts the attention of Krishna manifold. Then the second half of this chapter now speaks about anger or Krodharati. So Prabhupada says, when anger, Krodharati, is nourished within the heart of a devotee by its corresponding Vaibhava, it transforms into ecstatic fury or Rodra Bhakti Rasa. So we all know that anger in the material world, you may have heard motivational speaker upon motivational speaker say that when you are angry, it's like holding charcoal or poison in your own hand and expecting the other person to come to harm. However, you are harming yourself. So this is anger in the material sphere. Now, anger in this uh, Krodharati, in this particular rasa, Rodra Bhakti rasa, it transformed into ecstatic fury. That means the fruit of it, because it's directed to the eternal supreme personality, Krishna, then it will bring ecstasy. And Srila Rupa Goswami will give us very sweet examples just now to illustrate this more clearly. So the Vibhava, Vishaya, Alambana. There are three objects of ecstatic anger: Krishna, Krishna's well-wishers, and enemies. Ashraya, Alambana. If the object is Krishna, the Ashraya may either be like the Sakis or the elderly gopis. And if the object is Krishna's well-wishers or enemies, any devotee can be the Ashraya. So, when it's mentioned here, the Sakis or elderly gopis becoming upset with Krishna, Krishna relishes these exchanges millionfold more than the prayers of the munis and sages. That's how he relishes this, because it enhances the rasa that is so eager to taste. So the anger of Sakis towards Krishna. The Sakis become angry at Krishna when he mistreats Radharani. So here you see a part of a picture, and if you recognize it in the entire picture, you'll see that Krishna is standing with folded hands, begging forgiveness from Srimati Radharani. And in the background, you'll see a little bit of the sari of Lalita, Vishaka, and the other Sakis who are standing there expecting him to do the needful and beg Radharani's mercy. And Radharani, she's like, hand is up. So Lalita Gopi expressed her anger, which was caused by Krishna when she addressed Srimati Radharani thus: "My dear friend, my inner desires have been polluted. Therefore, I shall go to the place of the Yamuna. But I'm sorry to see that Krishna has still not given up. He's smiling over cheating you. I do not know how you could repose all your loving propensities upon this lusty young boy from the neighborhood of cowherds." So her speech appears to be quite harsh, that she's addressing Krishna as that young boy from the neighborhood of the cowherds. So you can see she's highly stimulated by this anger in love, because she loves Srimati Radharani. She's the topmost Saki. And she's reacting, and it's bringing Krishna a lot of pleasure when they see this deep reciprocation of love amidst his intimate associates. Anger of the elderly gopis towards Krishna. So after seeing Krishna, Jarati, in the last chapter, we heard that Jarati, she is the head of the house of Mother Yasoda's Nanda Bhavan. After seeing Krishna, Jarati sometimes said, "Oh, you thief of young girls' properties! I can distinctly see the covering of my daughter-in-law on your person." Then she cried very loudly, addressing all the residents of Vrindavan to inform them that this son of the king of Nanda was setting fire to the household life of her daughter-in-law. So here's Jarati, and she is saying that she recognizes the chadar, or the piece of cloth that Krishna has on his body, that it comes from her daughter-in-law. And now she wants to warn everybody that Krishna is the threat to the purity of all the young girls of Raja. So she's really angry. And I was listening a few weeks back to Dinabandhu Prabhu, who gives very nice talks on Vraj Leela. And he, having stayed in Vrindavan and having had association with the Brijbasis for many, many years, he explained so nicely how the Brijabasis of Vrindavan, they speak when they're angry in such harsh language that even a sailor will blush. So, sailors are known for their swear words and their harsh speech. But here, he was saying the talk of the Brajabasis when they are upset or they want to express something is so radical and Krishna, he relishes all of this. The elderly gopis becoming angry at Krishna for his libertine connection with connection with their chaste young daughters. They worry that such improper behavior will cast infamy and irreligiously upon him. In his commentary on this verse, Jiva Goswami describes that their anger is therefore an expression of their love. So, anger towards Krishna's well wishes, there are three reasons for becoming angry at Krishna's well wishes. So, this is not just aimed at Krishna, but also at his well wishes. Anavahita, inattentive. They are inattentive in protecting Krishna. Sahasi, bold. They rashly take Krishna into danger. Irsyu, envious. They have unnecessary anger towards Krishna due to jealous love. So in the first two, we can well imagine the cowherd boys being scolded for taking Krishna into dangerous parts of the forest by the elder gopis, and Srila Rupa Goswami will give us some instances. And the other one is jealousy, and we can well imagine where that came from. Anavahita, inattentive. Srila Rupa Goswami defines anavahita. Even though entrusted with Krishna's safety and maintenance, one becomes inattentive to Krishna's protection due to being too absorbed in collecting articles for his service. Srila Rupa Goswami illustrates this by citing Rohini's anger towards Yasoda after the twin Arjun trees fell. So Rohini was so highly upset with Mother Yasoda because these trees came crashing down, and she foresaw that this could have ended up to be a worse calamity if Krishna had been in the line of danger. You may be very expert in giving lessons to your son by binding him with the rope, but don't you look to see if your son is in a dangerous spot? The trees are falling on the ground and he is simply loitering there. So Mother Rohini, she becomes highly upset with Mother Yasoda because of what she presumes is Mother Yasoda's inattentiveness to Krishna's safety. Sahasi Rash. Srila Rupa Goswami defines Sahasi as one who rashly and foolhardily persuades Krishna to enter a dangerous, fearful place. Mother Yasoda's anger at the cowherd boys for sending Krishna alone into such danger in the Talavan forest is an example of ecstatic anger towards the foolhardy well-wishes of Krishna. So we all heard from Srila Prabhupada's Krishna book how the cowherd boys, they were so attracted to the scent, the nectarian smell of these tal fruits, and they were lamenting that these tal fruits are simply being wasted because we can't relish them in Krishna's presence. So thereby they asked Krishna to please go and fetch them some tal fruits. And lo and behold, the demons approached Krishna and fights ensued, with the demon kicking, Denakasura kicking Balaram on his chest, and thereby Krishna and Balaram picking up these demons and swinging them onto the tops of the tal trees. So when Mother Yasoda heard all of this, she became very upset that the cowherd boys had induced Krishna into such a dangerous situation. Irshu, or jealous lover. Srila Rupa Goswami defines Irshu as anger towards a well-wisher whose jealous love causes her to unnecessarily remain dissatisfied with Krishna. So this is the gopi going into a state of man where she is upset with Krishna and she does not want to hear anything about Krishna. So, what are